Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another in our post-cabinet press briefing series. This morning, we're joined by the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education, Youth and Information, myself, Minister of State, Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, Permanent Secretary acting in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Kashan Troop, Acting Chief Education Officer, as well as support staff from the ministry. The Minister will attend upon the podium where she will outline the decisions of Cabinet, and after which we will take questions from the media, also welcoming personnel from the media here today. So Minister Williams, please come to the podium.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge the Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan, our Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, Permanent Secretary acting, also at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Kashan Troop, our Chief Education Officer acting, team members from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, members of the media, good morning all. Today is December 1, the first day of the last month of the year 2021. Today's also World's AIDS Day, and as you know, December 1st has been designated since 1988 as an international day dedicated to raising awareness of the AIDS pandemic caused by the spread of HIV infection, and to also remember those who have died because of this disease. I'll begin this morning with the major decisions of Cabinet, followed by the reports that were tabled, and then the contracts. So the first is a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Companies Act. Cabinet gave approval for the bill entitled the Companies Amendment Act 2021 to be introduced in the Houses of Parliament. The bill seeks to provide for the holding of any general meetings, such as an annual general meeting or any extraordinary general meeting, as a virtual-only meeting, completely electronic, or a hybrid meeting, where this was not expressly prohibited by the articles of a company. The bill also seeks to empower the Registrar of Companies to grant extension of time for the holding of an annual general meeting. Item 2, in terms of Cabinet decision, is ascension to the Patent Cooperation Treaty and the Hague Agreement concerning the international registration of industrial designs. Cabinet gave approval for Jamaica's ascension to the Patent Cooperation Treaty and the Geneva Act of the Hague Agreement concerning the international registration of industrial designs, adopted at Geneva on July 2nd, 1999, called the Hague Agreement, with the declarations and notifications as recommended. The next item is the increase in monetary penalties and custodial sentences in legislation under the portfolio of the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology. Cabinet gave approval for the increases recommended by the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology to monetary penalties and custodial sentences in relation to legislation falling under its portfolio. The Ministry, upon examination of several pieces of legislation within its portfolio, noted that in some of the enactments administered, the monetary penalties were minuscule and did not serve as a deterrent to the commission of the prescribed offenses, nor were they proportional to the gravity of the offenses. Therefore, the increases to the monetary penalties and custodial sentences are being proposed to ensure alignment with the current pattern or scale of penalties prescribed in recently promulgated legislation. Cabinet also gave approval for the issuance of drafting instructions to the Chief Parliamentary Council to amend the relevant legislation. The next item relates to the amendments to the spectrum pricing policy and framework. Cabinet gave approval for the spectrum pricing policy and framework related to the charging of fees for the regulation, management, and administration of the radio frequency spectrum to be amended to include provision related to the refund of spectrum usage or license and spectrum management fees as follows. There shall be no refund of spectrum usage or license fees or spectrum management fees. A holder of a spectrum license may, however, request a prorated credit of spectrum usage or license fees to its account in the event it wishes to relinquish one or more of its licenses. The spectrum usage or license fee that may be credited is equivalent to the amount of time from the date of cancellation to the expiration date of the license. The request for a prorated credit shall be made to the regulator in writing at the time the license requests to relinquish its license. Approval was also given to replace Appendix 2, which is the schedule of fees, with an updated schedule of fees. Item 5 is the outcome of negotiations for the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project. Cabinet gave approval for the negotiated price of US $274,517,408.09 for the execution of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project by China Harbor Engineering Company Limited, with the National Road Operating and Constructing Company Limited as the implementing agency. The project is comprised of the Montego Bay Bypass, the Barnett Street, West Green Avenue Road, the Long Hill Bypass, and the drainage study of the Montego Bay Bypass area. The next item is International Corporate and Trust Services Providers Change of Name and Amendment Act 2021. Cabinet gave approval for the bill entitled the International Corporate and Trust Services Providers Change of Name and Amendment Act 2021 to be introduced in the Houses of Parliament. We turn now to annual reports that were brought to Cabinet. We have the annual report of the activities of the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons for the period April 1, 2020 to March 31, 2021. Cabinet approved the annual report of the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons for the period April 1, 2020 to March 31, 2021. Cabinet also approved the submission of the annual report to the United States of America Department of State through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Jamaica has maintained its Tier 2 ranking in the 2020 United States of America Department of State's Annual Trafficking in Persons Report. National Housing Trust Special Benefit Order. Hummingbird Meadows, Phase 1, Housing Development, Clarendon. Cabinet gave approval for the promulgation of a special benefit order effective July 30th, 2021 to facilitate the allocation of 16 housing solutions at the Hummingbird Meadows, Phase 1, Housing Development in Clarendon to contributors to the National Housing Trust who meet the criteria specified. Cabinet also gave approval for the issuance of drafting instructions to the Chief Parliamentary Council to facilitate the promulgation of the said special benefit order. The next item relates to the approval to repeal the Plant Quarantine Act and replace with new legislation entitled the Plant Health Act. Cabinet approved the repeal of the Plants Quarantine Act 1993. Cabinet also approved the enactment of new legislation with nomenclature such as the Plant Health Act to allow for the enactment of a comprehensive legislation that would be consistent with modern best practice and Jamaica's international obligations under the International Plant Protection Convention, to which Jamaica had been a contracting party since November 24, 1969. Cabinet also gave approval for the consequential amendments to the Agriculture Produce Act in order to consolidate the functions of the plant quarantine produce inspection branch in relation to plant trade, specifically agricultural produce for both export and import under one act. And Cabinet also gave approval for consequential amendment to the Jamaica Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority Act in order to consolidate the functions of the plant quarantine produce inspection branch in relation to plant trade, specifically regulated agricultural commodity for both export and import under one act, and any other consequential amendments that may arise, and the issuance of drafting instructions to the Chief Parliamentary Council. And I believe the last item relates to fiscal policy papers, financial year 2021-2022, interim report and proposals for the first supplementary estimate, 2021-2022. Cabinet gave approval for the fiscal policy paper, financial year 2021-2022, interim report, incorporating the economic outturn of financial year 2020-2021, the performance of the first quarter of the financial year 2021-2022, which is April to July, and the medium-term macrofiscal projections. The second supplementary estimates 2021-2022, reflecting the adjustments to government expenditures, the expenditure ceilings for ministries, departments, and agencies covering the financial year 2022-2023 and the medium term, and the tabling of the fiscal policy financial year 2021-2022 interim report and the first supplementary estimates for 2021-2022 in the House of Representatives. That was the approval given. We turn now to reports. Cabinet received and approved the following annual reports and/or financial statements to be tabled in Parliament. Annual report of the University of Technology for the financial year 2018-2019. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Jamaica Mortgage Bank for the financial year 2020-2021. Casino Gaming Commission annual report for year ended March 31, 2021. Annual report of the Police Civilian Oversight Authority for financial year 2015-2016. Annual report of the Police Civilian Oversight Authority for financial year 2016-2017. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Montego Bay Free Zone Company Limited for the financial year 2019-2020. I turn now to contracts. Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract for the procurement of antiretroviral drugs for a period of 12 months in the amount of US $1,696,637.50 or Jamaican $234,135,975, excluding GCT, to Mylan Labs Limited. Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract for the provision of material and labor for the construction of the parking area at the Cornwall Regional Hospital, Quadrants Phase 2, for a period of 8 months in the amount of $187,176,970, and that contract went to Rogers Land Development Limited. Cabinet also gave approval for the award of a contract for the provision of canteen concessionaire services for Petrojam Limited for a period of 2 years in the amount of $213,324,201.54, and that contract went to Mothers Enterprise Limited. Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract for the provision of motor vehicle consumables for a period of 1 year, 2021 to 2022, by the Tax Administration Jamaica in the amount of US $598,500 or Jamaica $92,790,990. And that contract went to HID CID Limited. Cabinet gave approval for the award of contract to undertake renovation works at the Jamaica Conference Center located at 14 to 20 Port Royal Street, Kingston, in the amount of $115,088,857, and that contract went to GECO Consultants and Construction Limited. Cabinet also gave approval for the award of a contract for the supply of clinical chemistry systems for general chemical and immunochemistry for the Cornwall Regional Hospital for a period of 3 years in the amount of US $2,229,521.23, and that contract went to Facey Commodity Limited. That concludes Cabinet's decisions, contracts, and reports. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. We will now be taking questions from members of the media. Do we have any questions currently? I see the first question from Mr. Prince Moore. Mr. Moore, could you identify your media house and then state your question?
Sure. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Great. I'm from the RGR Gleaner Communications Group. Just a quick question to the Minister. The Jamaica Teachers Association says it cannot guarantee normality in the education system, as members are now extremely restive over the delay in reaching a wage deal with the government. The question, have you been following the matter, and will you be intervening in order to prevent any disruption in the education system?
So the Ministry of Education is very aware of the wage negotiation period that we're in. But as is normal, the JTA and the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service are the two entities that really engage in the negotiations. And so while at the ministry we provide any support that is required from us, we are really only there in a support capacity, and the negotiations are between the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and the Jamaica Teachers Association. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you. Thank you, Minister. We will now take a question from Ms. Kimon Francis. I think you're now at the RGR Gleaner Group, I think. Ms. Francis, can you hear?
Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, we are. Please go ahead.
Morning, thanks. Minister, the last time we were here, you said that you were awaiting a report from the NPL board. Can we get an update on the outcome of that? And can I get an update on Dr. Grace Mclean? She has been sent on leave.
You are trailing off for your second question, Kimon. Could you repeat your second question, please?
Sorry, an update on Dr. Grace Mclean.
Could you clarify what do you mean an update on Dr. Grace Mclean?
Right, she was sent on leave. Not sure what's happening now.
As it relates to the NPL board, I think we can report on that by next week. I don't know if there's anything else to report on Dr. Grace Mclean. She's on leave, and the process continues. So we don't have anything to add to that conversation.
Sorry, what's the process?
Who is that? Is that Kimon?
Right.
Okay, so as you may be aware, I'm sure you are, investigative process has begun. The former acting permanent secretary proceeded on leave. The investigation continues. We're not the constituted authority doing the investigations, so we have to wait on their outcomes and their findings. And as the most we can report is that the investigations are ongoing.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Kimon. Do we have any other questions? Thank you very much. I see we have no more questions. So I want to thank members of the media for attending up on this post-cabinet press briefing. Thanks to you, Minister, as well as Acting PS, Mrs. Dwyer, Acting CEO, Dr. Troop, and all the members of the Jamaica Information Service team, and those on social media who tuned in. Thank you very much. Until next time.